Hello, welcome back. I'm Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your expressions of concern and your prayers for healing that you sent to my wife yesterday. She was in the hospital, but as it turns out, she only had to stay in the hospital for one day, and she's now back home recuperating. But we really appreciate your prayers and expressions for her healing. Today I want to talk about building your spiritual power. Another way to say it is to strengthen your connection to infinite intelligence. You know, we live in a very materialistic world, and the assault on our spiritual beliefs and connections is pretty powerful these days. So we need to work on building the strength of our spiritual connections so that we can live a life in which infinite intelligence visibly works to protect us through our connection with infinite intelligence. It works to make our lives better. It works to make our lives more manageable. Now, I often address you as spiritual warriors, and I often call on you to use your power to help change the world, to help those who are in need of love and spiritual uplifting. But I must admit the energy of materialism and negativity is growing stronger every day and is getting more aggressive. So it behooves us to work on getting our spiritual powers operating at their peak levels to give our lives the boost needed to thrive in this hostile environment. Now, there's a story that's going around in the African American churches that I'd like to share with you. There's this family that's driving through a rural area in the middle of winter, and there's snow and ice, and they run into a patch of ice where they lose control of the car, and they end up in a ditch and can't get the car out and back onto the road. And also the young male driver, is injured and in need of help. So they realize that if I don't get out of the car and get to shelter, that they'll probably freeze to death. So they spot a light at a house not very far away, and they decide that they're going to try and get to that house. So lifting the young man up and carrying him on their shoulder, or supporting him on their shoulders, because he's still hobbled along. He just can't walk on his own. So they carry him to the house with the light on in the distance. When they get there, they knock on the door, and the woman inside who owns it, they tell the story about how they had an accident and how they need to get some medical help for the young man who has been injured. Well, she lets them in the house, but she tells them that this, by the way, is before the days of the cell phone. Okay, so she tells them that they can't make a call to get to the doctor because the lines are down, and so they're pretty isolated. But of course, they can come in, and you know, he can lay on the couch, and they can take care of him as they can. Well, the grandmother of the family, who is traveling, the grandmother asked the woman who owns the house if she can use a closet, use one of their closets. And the woman says, of course, and she takes them to one of her closets, or takes her to one of her closets, where she closes the door and begins to pray. After she prays, she comes out, and they tend to the young man as best they can. And about 20 minutes to a half hour later, there's a knock on the door. And when they open the door, they discover there stands the local doctor, the one that they couldn't reach by phone because the lines were down. The doctor tells them that he was on his way home. He'd been out on a call. He was on his way home, but he had this urgent need to come to this house to make sure that the woman who owned the house was okay. He just couldn't resist it. So, there we go. The prayer, the grandmother's prayer was answered. She called for a miracle and it came. The doctor arrived on call as he was supposed to, even as if she had picked up a phone and called him to tell him that they needed the help. Now this is an example of a strong connection to spiritual power, where the grandmother went to the closet to pray for help. She prayed with a certainty that her prayer was going to be answered. It's not a tentative, wishful prayer that maybe it would be answered. That prayer that she sent out was powerful, clear, and strong. It was a definitive prayer that was uttered with the unshakable knowledge, the unshakable belief in the truth of the words of Matthew 6:6, where he says, "But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut the door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." Shall reward thee openly. When she went into that closet to pray, she knew that those words were true. She also, when she went into that closet to pray, demonstrated her faith in the words of Matthew 7:7, when it says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you." She believed those words were absolutely true. And they were. But how do you achieve that level of certainty that fills you with the knowledge that infinite intelligence is going to respond to you? When you call upon infinite intelligence for guidance and support and for healing, how do you know, how do you achieve a state of mind that tells you that infinite intelligence is going to respond? How do you get there? Well, you get there through commitment, discipline, faith, and practice. Lots of practice. Now that story makes certain assumptions about the grandmother when it's told. It assumes that the grandmother fits that stereotypical mold of the old gray-haired grandmother who is an avid churchgoer, who's at church several times a day, and every time she's there, she's involved in church activities for hours upon end. In other words, her life is the church. Well, that's all well and good, but today, most of us are not dedicated to the regimen of church going. Most of us don't go to church. So there's a way that we can achieve, is there a way that we can achieve that level of commitment, that level of faith, without having to become attached to a church? Is there a way? Well, let's talk about what she had going for her. So if you think about it, her church going is not really the reason for her steadfast faith. That was there. The church is actually an outward manifestation of her belief system. The church is actually a tool that she employs to express her spiritual faith. It is not the source of her spiritual faith. It is merely a way, a physical manifestation way of expressing her spiritual belief. What's really at work here are the effects of her commitment, her discipline, her repetition, and her belief, her very strong belief. But the physical environment, while not the source of her strength, is a key factor in maintaining her faith. What I mean by that is she has this church that she consistently turned to focus as a focal point of her belief in infinite intelligence. And she is surrounded by people who support that belief because they hold the same belief. They have the same belief system. But her practice is reinforced by the fact that she was in a building that's dedicated to that activity. Good point. A building, a place that is dedicated to the activity, where the energy vibration is supportive of that activity. The inner energy vibration is supportive of her faith, supportive of worshiping, supportive of connecting with infinite intelligence and spirit and the divine. And because that energy is there, it has an effect on the human mind. So when you step into that church, there's a definite shift in consciousness that takes place. Now, church builders have known this for a long time, for centuries. Catholic cathedrals, the great Catholic cathedrals, that we've seen in Europe, the Chartres and Chartres and Notre Dame, they were designed to transport the churchgoer into a shift of consciousness, to open them up to a spiritual experience. Now, part of this effect was accomplished by the expert use of light. Now, God is linked to light. In Genesis 1:3, God's first utterance in this world is, "Let there be light." In the New Testament, Christ always refers to himself as the light of the world. Accounts of miracles and visions are often accompanied by bright light, a glowing light, an auric light, which indicates the presence of God. Now, the builders of these cathedrals understood the ability of light and beauty to produce emotion and alter consciousness. They knew this. They developed ways to allow the maximum amount of light to pour into the church, into the sanctuary, and they manipulated that light with stained glass windows to create color and beauty for maximum effect. So in all these great cathedrals, it is just overwhelming even the cathedrals built here, it can be overwhelming when you walk into the sanctuary and you're bathed in all this beautiful stained glass window light, and you're seeing all the paintings and the statues, and quite often there's a dome with light pouring in. It's really transporting. It has an effect on the consciousness. So the power of light is then additionally enhanced by the use of precious metals like gold and silver and copper, shiny objects that reflect light, which magnify light. So the members of the congregation are not only moved by the scope of this building in which they find themselves, this room that is filled with all this light and filled with beauty, but also filled with these shiny objects that candles and torches, and it's pretty overwhelming. But the effect is, it causes a shift in consciousness. It causes an emotional reaction and a shift in consciousness. You're filled with delight and pleasure and awe and wonder. And with all that surrounding you, it's easy to be transported into a sense of you are in the presence of spirit. You're in the presence of the divine. And you're very open to a spiritual experience. So looking back at these design principles that were being employed by the builders of the church, it's easy to chalk it all up to manipulation. Yeah. The worshipers really didn't know what hit them because they didn't study this stuff. They just walked in and they were affected by it. But the people who designed these buildings and who built them were very, very well versed in the principles behind which this was all set up. And the people who financed it now, the rich and powerful people who often financed the work of building these great cathedrals and commissioned artists to do these these paintings and wonderful stained glass windows. They were not moved by the Spirit. What they were moved by was, one, their ego behind, I helped build this church, but also to control the peasants, to control the lowly masses. You know, it was a matter of control. And so the people were being manipulated. But, despite the fact that they were being manipulated, despite the fact that they were being unconsciously influenced by a combination of elements designed to overwhelm them, there was something else behind all that we need to acknowledge. Admittedly, these days many churches, many modern churches, try and emulate, to a much lesser degree, but emulate the effects and the cathedrals had. So they too are seeking to manipulate the masses, the people. But let's get beyond that. Let's get behind the curtain. Let's bid to the basis of all this, and that is, as Joseph in Genesis chapter 50, who is sold into slavery by his jealous brothers, and who, through a series of remarkable events, ends up becoming the second most powerful man in Egypt. Went from slave to being the second most powerful man in Egypt. And what did he tell his brothers? When he saw his brothers again, now that he's in this position of power, what did he say to them? He said, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. So, even though the people who financed these great cathedrals meant it as a method of controlling the masses, there was something behind that is good, divine, spiritual. And that is that behind that curtain of manipulation is the power of God. So, the grandmother, we're back to her, the grandmother who did the prayers to bring the doctor, was strong in her belief, and her belief was reinforced by the fact that she was working in this church in a congregation where everybody else believed the same thing. And so the combination of those elements made her faith so much stronger. The people were important, because if you're surrounded by people who discount your belief, if you're surrounded by people who don't believe as you do, or who actually aggressively try and discourage you from believing that, it's hard to hold on to your belief. But when you're surrounded by people who support your belief, you're surrounded by people who understand what you're doing and are in agreement with it and cooperating with it, then it's easier to hold on to your beliefs. It's easier to build your connection with infinite intelligence. That's why we're here, to help you maintain that powerful connection to infinite intelligence, and understand that you are much more powerful than those around you who disagree, who disbelieve. Then they understand, because behind that curtain of the materialist buildings is the fact that God is always with us. The kingdom of God is within us, that we are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence, that we are spiritual warriors on the path to gaining our power, that we're not limited by our physical being, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And the more we can connect with that spiritual self, the more powerful we become in terms of the quality of our lives, in terms of our ability to make things happen, to bring about into manifestation our wishes and desires. We have that power. Let's take a break for some messages. Whether you're building wealth or anticipating a major financial transaction, you can benefit greatly by consulting with a personal, professional, licensed financial advisor. A personal, professional, licensed financial advisor who focuses on you, who understands your unique concerns, who relates to your special goals, who cares about your success. Afroeconomics is a strategic financial program designed for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad. It was created by J.B. Bryan, CEO of J.B. Bryan Financial Group, an independent registered investment advisory firm licensed in Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York, and Maryland. Being Black does not condemn you to a life of financial uncertainty. Afroeconomics can show you the way out and up. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash App at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support. So, how do beautiful cathedrals and churches relate to your building a stronger connection between you and infinite intelligence? How does that work for you to become a spiritual warrior? I'm not asking you to start attending a cathedral. I'm not even asking you to start going to church. What I'm asking you is to understand the principles behind those physical spaces. And the principles behind those physical spaces is that environment is important. Environment is key. So the thing to do, let me turn off my phone here. I always forget to do that. The first step for you is for building our powerful connection to infinite intelligence beyond the ordinary is to create a space where we can get reinforcements. Create a space where we can shift into the right consciousness in order to make that connection. So a space of beauty, a space of spiritual peace, a space that gives you the uplift, the emotional uplift, the sense of love surrounding you, so that whenever you're in that space, your consciousness automatically goes into a shift where you connect with infinite intelligence at a higher level. Your spiritual power is amplified because it's not distracted by the helter-skelter of the materialistic world around you. So it's here that that miracles can happen, because it's here that you see and you feel and you know the power of infinite intelligence surrounds you and embraces you. This is what we seek to accomplish in this space. The trouble is, unless you got a lot of money, building a space where you've got this incredible beauty surrounding you and it's peaceful and all that, you just can't do it. You can't do it because you don't have the money. So you've got to find another way. And the other way is through the mind. Yeah, through the mind. It is through your mind that you can create this place of beauty and peace that is going to shift your consciousness to a higher level. Just like beauty and peace can shift your mind, just like beautiful music. Beautiful music can shift your consciousness. This place, this physical place, can take you to a state of mind in which you and infinite intelligence are really one. You know, we know that it's true that we are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence, but you know, we tend to forget, and so there's always this separation. Our mind tells us that we're individuals. Our mind tells us that we're not connected to anything. And so we have to go into an altered state of consciousness to realize that that is not true, that we are not separate, that we are part of infinite intelligence, and that we are inextricably connected to infinite intelligence. So how do we get this done? First, we need a place where we dedicate it to spiritual exploration, spiritual work, spiritual practice. We need a place that is dedicated to that. So it can be a room. I once had a room where there was a temple and it was dedicated only to my spiritual work. It can be a closet, just like grandmother went into a closet to do her prayers. It would be, you know, if you can have a closet that is dedicated to you sitting in there and being in touch with spirit, that would be great. But most of us don't have that kind of space. So there is another way to do it, which is to take a corner of a room and dedicate it to spiritual work. The corner of a room, that's all you need. What is important is that it be dedicated to the work. So here's how you do it. Put a chair in that corner. When the chair is facing out into the room, well, it's just a piece of furniture. And that's all it is. But the equivalent of flipping a switch, take the chair and turn it around facing the corner. So now you have actually shifted the energy. Now you have actually shifted into a different dimension. This is, of course, a mental exercise, but physically, when you turn the chair around, you have shifted something. You have shifted the energy. So with this energy now shifted, you sit in the chair and you begin to meditate or to pray and to imagine. And it is here that the power begins to manifest itself. Here you begin to imagine in this space that you are in a place of beauty, that you're in a place where beauty and peace manifest. So this place that you imagine, that you're beginning to create in your mind, it can be, you know, like a wooded area or a meadow or sitting next to the ocean or a large lake. Wherever you feel that you would be comfortable, that you would feel good being in that place, and in that place you would feel connected to spirit, that you would feel connected to divine. And so being there, of course, it may not happen on the first try, but being there, you begin to build up the image of this place in your mind as you work at it day after day after day. You're building what is a workspace for you. And as you're being there, as you're building this workspace, this place where you would love to be surrounded by nature, by beauty, by peace. And it doesn't have to be outside even. It could be in a room. You could imagine yourself in a room in which you feel very comfortable, in which you've got plush furniture, and you feel on the walls there are beautiful paintings, and you feel at peace in this room. It doesn't have to be out in nature. Many of us who grew up in urban environments, the idea of being out in the woods is not a very, very attractive thing to believe in or to imagine. So I must admit I found peace by the ocean, but I also find that there are places, rooms, where I feel really comfortable, and with very plush, luxurious furniture, I could be there for a while and feel very connected. So find this place, create this place, and build upon it on a day-to-day basis. Keep working at it on a day-to-day basis as you sit here in that chair. When the chair is facing out, it's just a piece of furniture, but when it's facing into the corner, then it becomes a spiritual place. It becomes a place that is connected to the divine energies. So, after a while, difficult at first perhaps, but after a while, if you keep doing it, resistance, people find that they have resistance to meditation. That's because their conscious mind will not allow it. But if you keep at it, if you keep going back to that spot, turning the chair around into the corner and sitting there and imagining this place of peace and magical connection to infinite intelligence, eventually your conscious mind is going to give up. Your ego is going to give up. It's going to release control and allow you to be there, to fully be there. And when you're there, not only are you looking at visuals, but you're also hearing. Imagine the sounds of that environment. Imagine the smells of that environment, Every place smells a little bit differently. So imagine, just give yourself the full physical experience when you're imagining yourself there, and eventually your conscious mind is going to allow you to be there. And there in that special place, there in that place of peace and the divine, is where you connect with infinite intelligence, where you connect with your spirit guides, where you can connect with your guardian angel. It's a place where you can go to get the answers to difficult problems. Because when you go there, when you sit in that chair, you shift, your consciousness shifts to a different level. It opens up a different part of the brain. And with that strong connection and that new part of the brain that has been opened up, then you can begin to actually accomplish some things at a spiritual level that will manifest on the physical level. And the upside is that once you get that place established, once you get it to the point that you can access it through thinking about it, not only there in that chair, but in stressful situations that you may find yourself in outside of the home, when you're at work, or when you're dealing with these crazy people who are out there, if you're able to think of that place where you're going to find peace, then what you'll find is your mind will shift into an altered state of consciousness that will allow your brain to see, or your mind to see, possibilities that you wouldn't see under normal stress. Because when you're in stress, what happens is your mind begins to close up. It begins to shut down. It's like it focuses on the pain that you're facing here, the stress that you're facing here, and it doesn't see outside of that. So what you got to do is that if you've got this connection to that place, to that special place of peace, you can shut out the stress and then begin to see the possibilities for alternative situations, for ways to solve this quote-unquote problem. You're switching into a different mode of problem solving. And it's going to be easier for you to solve problems. It's going to be easier for you to get to where you want to go. You know, when Jesus changed the water into wine, it's because he saw the water as wine. He saw it as wine, and because his mind was so powerful, because the energy around him was so powerful, the water became wine. When you are seeking to change a circumstance, then you do not focus on the circumstance, you focus on the change. You focus on what it is you want to see there. And through the power of your internal connection with infinite intelligence, eventually, sometimes faster, eventually that change will come about. Oh my God. I thought I turned that off. So, when you get there, this is going to strengthen you, to empower you. Going into that place of peace in the middle of a stressful situation will slow down your heart rate. It'll keep you from going into panic mode. So, create this place. Create this place by dedicating a corner of your abode to the spiritual. Create this place. Take a chair in that corner and turn it around into the corner and make it a special place where you can transport yourself into a different state of mind. Discipline, commitment, practice. These are all steps. These are all necessary elements of making that happen for you. But when you do make that happen, the results of making that happen, the results of that connection, strengthening that connection, can bring about amazing results for your life, can enhance your life, can uplift your life, can prosper your life. It works. Believe me, it works. It actually works. Let's close with prayer. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence. Thank you for bringing us into this, together into this life, so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work that we've come here to do. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are. We open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being. We are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, we're beginning to understand our value into the continuity of life on this planet. As we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more. And we know that as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise, because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we're now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger, and our lives will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. And for this, we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Remember, I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is the Wings of Your Mind. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash App at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support.